There are typically two main types of FNAF fan games that are usually made. The first being a much more comedic lighthearted story that is essentially created just to be a fun experience for those who want to try it out, with the exact opposite having a much more darker and serious tone that's shown to express strong emotions through its visuals and lore. As much as I do love FNAF fan games that don't try to take themselves too seriously at all, since they can be fun to play and turn off your brain rotted mind for a bit, the amount of potential these other games have where you put massive amounts of effort to create detailed stories that need you to replay the game multiple times just to scout out hidden details that could be easily missed creates an experience unlike any other. Which is where we make it to Together Again, a Lake's Funland story, a game that has something extremely dark hiding right under its surface, and it's our job to find out what exactly that disturbing secret can be. Now, our adventure begins with this strange cutscene that has some amazing artwork within it. When first watching it, you'll notice some things right off the bat, such as this creepy face with sharp teeth, and another shot where there's a group of crying children looking up at a mysterious person, giving us slight glimpses of lore that's within this game without giving us too much information. Starting the actual first night doesn't drop us off in an office, but instead into another cutscene, but here the art style completely changes to be this 8-bit style instead. A conversation between an executive at a company and a man named Oscar unfolds, with the latter looking absolutely defeated. He feels betrayed as he helped grow this company, but now they decide to fire him. Looking even deeper within his office, we see multiple portraits. Of course, most of these look like they have no significance at all, but it's the one where there appears to be a man and his daughter that we should really remember. It isn't long where he starts to talk about needing to practice selling Josephine, most likely his wife, that he lost everything, with the chilling and foreshadowing line saying, "I'm afraid not even God can help me this time." As soon as those words exit his mouth, another voice appears.
"Oh friend, you won't, but I can help you."
No one else was inside that office until something appeared. The whole time, there was no sounds, no music, nothing at all until everything fades to black, and finally, we come face to face with this. We don't know what it is yet, but it obviously isn't anything good. We learn that we are this town's famous robotics genius. Fear engulfs us naturally, but only laughter is returned from the darkness, reassuring Oscar that it won't hurt us at all and only came because it heard our pleas for help. Noticing how desperate we are, it gives us a choice of doing us a huge favor. Oscar, bewildered by what's in front of his eyes, continues to ask, "What even are you?" But again, this thing ignores that, instead choosing to appeal towards his negative emotions. "Listen, I know you worked hard for this company for the last 10 years. Those are your creations. You made them. They belong to you." The other executives within his company start to feel like things weren't going as planned and decide to pin all the blame on us. Even this thing says, "It doesn't seem right to me." It knows exactly how to draw our interest for what's next. "I'm here to offer you a great deal." What could this deal entail? Everything you could ever want. Success, fortune, power, influence, anything, just for one little thing. Our son. Though it's very vague on what exactly it wants from his son. In its own words, he doesn't want to take his soul, just for something else, never clarifying what that thing is. Oscar rejects this quickly as he would never want to hurt his family, even with how desperate he is right now, but this thing recognizes that even if he doesn't accept, he still will probably lose his son or his entire family altogether, throwing in the fears of them leaving him due to the loss of his job. Assuring him he's a man of his word, he asks again, "Will you take me on my offer?" Staring at each other for a moment before the screen turns pitch black. Wow. The lore already is pushing itself to be something that can be expanded upon in so many different directions that the first time you see this, you feel a variety of emotions, confusion, curiosity, and wonderment. Now, we're gonna have to talk about one of the main things that felt differentiated this FNAF fan game over any others. And it's the fact that the main protagonist of this one actually has a voice. Other FNAF fan games, we do play as someone that has lore connected to them, and most of the time it's directly tied to them, but it is very rare that they ever speak. Personally, this is a double-edged sword in my own opinion. Creating a character you play as a silent vessel for you to immerse yourself within a gameplay is a great way to have that fear factor come out stronger. Then again, if you want to have a specific direction for said character, then having small voice lines to show off their personalities could cause people to relate to them as well. If you're wondering why I'm deciding to choose now to talk about the voice acting, that is because in the very next scene has us, the main character, talking about what she is doing within a town. Our name is Ashley J. Waters, and we're working on an investigation thesis for our class. Of course, we can't do something normal, so we're investigating a missing children's case where 3 went missing. This case is still open as the children were never found. No bodies and very few clues were ever left behind. It's like they vanished without a trace. October 11th, 1990. Martin, Josh, and Wendy would go missing as they all left their homes around the same time, just somewhere unknown. And that's really all the information we had that'll be available to us as we finally launch into our first night.
Alright, first night on the job. Oh, the office is a mess, but it feels like a nice place to work. Oh, someone left a message. Nice.
Hello? Hello? Hey, how's my favorite security guard doing, huh?
As mechanical as the voice on the phone is, she's actually our mother who recorded some tapes for us to listen to as the nights progress, essentially letting us know that we have access to the entire camera system from the comfort of our own office. Most of the cameras are pretty dark until we press the flash key to light up the rooms. Although using the cameras themselves won't drain our batteries at all, so no matter how long we keep them up, actually turning on the lights in each room will, so it's important to be very mindful of that. There are 2 sets of cameras that we do have access to, with the first obviously being the normal building, with the second showing us the vent if we press the toggle camera button. For now, this is useless information until we progress into later nights. The only thing we truly need to know is that there are sound lures scattered around the restaurant, basically barring the mechanic used from FNAF 3 to keep you safe from Springtrap. I do want to say, as much as I did love FNAF 3 from the lore side of things, its gameplay was just lackluster. I do appreciate the inclusion of this mechanic since it adds an extra layer to the gameplay that will be expanded upon heavily much later on. Since our mother absolutely loves us, she decides to give us a quick warning.
There was this other girl too, but she chose to quit because one of the animatronics got into the office during her shift and tried to attack her. She left the building with a broken leg. We were really lucky she didn't sue us. But hey, I'm not trying to scare you or anything, but Michael said those machines have been a little twitchy lately.
Though apparently doesn't love us enough to say run away before things could get ugly for us. At least she's gonna pick us up after we're done working at 7 AM. The final thing mentioned on the call is how she packed us 3 pills within our bags, meant to treat our anxiety. This will also be talked about later on once it's relevant, but for now, please understand that this one mechanic made me want to quit playing this game entirely. I won't lie, I did not like the voice acting when I first heard it the very first time I played this game. It wasn't due to the fact of the voice actor herself, but instead just not being used to having a protagonist in a FNAF style game having a voice. It felt very weird to listen to the phone calls, then having someone else kind of think for me.
What did she just say about the animatronics? Alright, I've heard this one before. I guess it's a practical joke. Alright. Let's get serious. Sounds like my job isn't too hard, I hope.
I'm not sure how to put it into words, but it just threw me off the first time playing it, but now I kind of like it. Especially the dumb little lines whenever you click on anything within the office, having our character, Ashley, respond to it.
A fan. Okay. Is that a figurine of Mom? Ah, that's adorable. I could get a few bucks if I sold these.
The only animatronic active on his night is Hayden, who I'll just be calling Red. He's the simplest character as he will just walk directly towards us, but we could use the various sound lures scattered around to push him away. Thankfully, he is quite fair in his mechanic, as even if you do mess up and he somehow ends up in a hallway right in front of the office, you'll still have a chance to push him back further into the diner. It's quite unique to have an animatronic design based on humans, with the only other big example that I could think of being the masterpiece simply known as a Return to Freddy series. It is a very easy first night that you can just turn off your brain and beat it half asleep. The graphics are pretty well made with the movements feeling extremely smooth. When putting down the camera to run into your office, switching to scout out the other rooms, and just looking around, it feels perfectly crafted and made in a way that shows a lot of time and effort was put into making the players have an experience that felt comfortable. You could tell how good a FNAF fan game is sometimes by what happens at the end of the night.
Great. First night done. And that was surreal. Not positively surreal.
The Night 1 minigame begins, and we play as Ashley, just beginning our investigation within his town, with our first strategy to find any information simply being to ask the locals around about any useful info that could be used. The first group tells us that Wendy, one of the missing children, was taken to Lake's Funland earlier in the same morning, with one of the theories being made that they all went to play somewhere the same exact night but presumably got kidnapped. This just feels like a funny little Easter egg, but a man named Mr. Cawthon is playing with his two sons. It could potentially maybe be referring to someone called Scott Cawthon who made this small indie game, but who knows. The only information that he gives that's useful is how Martin's father suspects that his son may have went back to Lake's Funland since he went there the same exact morning. A similar story to Wendy's. This minigame ends when we speak to a man named Darren Hill, who has actually been working on that case since he used to be a detective at the police department a long time ago, even giving us the opportunity to partner up with him so we could try to solve it together. As he gives us his number, the minigame fades to black and we are placed into the second night. For now, we could piece some of the information together that we just got, which admittedly isn't much, though now we know that 2 of the 3 kids were at Lake's Funland the same exact morning they disappeared. We could probably assume the same is true for the 3rd kid as well. It's the same place that our mother works at and where we just started working the previous night. When we enter the office, Ashley does let us know that she's starting to feel uneasy about the whole situation now. Afterwards, we get another call from our mother talking about some flaws found within the animatronics, as well as introducing the music feature. The tape ends with our mother telling us that she loves us once again. The difficulty within this game is very similar to the Return to Bloody Nights, and by that I mean, although most FNAF fan games try to at least scale up each night to be slightly harder than the last, here things escalate quite quickly. Instead of only one animatronic, we now have to deal with a total of 4. Alice is the simplest as she is on cam 2 along with the other 2 new ones, but we'll need us to constantly rewind this cassette tape to make sure it's playing her favorite song, borrowing the mechanic from FNAF 2 with the puppet. The best part about this specific mechanic is that we will be able to hear the song even when we're on other cameras, so it isn't too difficult to recognize when we'll need to recharge it. Although the Coyote and John Kun are very similar with how they are stopped, the way they move are very different. We can simply track the Coyote with the normal camera system as he walks towards our office. Once there, we'll need to shut off the lights using a button in the middle. John Kun instead travels using the vents, which makes it a lot more annoying to track him, but thankfully we don't really need to know where they are at all times, since whenever they appear within the office, they will make this very loud sound cue which will charge up our exposure meter. It will quickly rise up but also disappear just as fast when they leave, so this is more of a reflex that you have to get used to. Now, the reason why these 2 are so annoying isn't the fact that they jump scare you consistently on later nights due to their aggression levels rising. No, it's the fact that every single time they pop up, the panic meter will also rise up, but won't fall down even after they leave. The first time it rises, it's not much of an issue, but each time, your mouse will begin to shake more and more violently. It is extremely frustrating when you try to make such quick decisions on later nights, but your mouse is acting crazy. Just look how small these buttons are within the camera system, from the actual cameras themselves, to tiny sound cues, to cassette tapes, and most importantly, this really thin toggle button that will show you the vents. At first, when viewing the designs of the entire system, it looks and feels very intuitive, like it was made to be simple on purpose, not too big nor too flashy. It's only now you realize it was a very deliberate choice to make the buttons so small just so you could be forced to ration your pills in order to decide, do I need to use them now to make things easier, or wait just a little bit longer so I could definitely make it safely through the night. It's impressive how this one small mechanic somehow changes the entire way you think and play the game. Along with making our characters shake, we will also begin seeing hallucinations which are very vague. This mouse concept is very cool and something I don't think I've ever seen implemented before in a FNAF fan game. It adds a layer of humanity that we could relate to towards Ashley, since being stuck in a diner filled with animatronics may not be the best time. But oh wow, did I absolutely grow to despise this single feature. After some trial and error, we're dropped off in a second minigame where we get invited into the home of Darren. He leaves us for a bit, so we go around exploring. The first person we talk to is well, she looks familiar. Throughout the game, there are a lot of Easter eggs scattered around that really bring out the fans of the original series, which I absolutely love. I doubt there's any real lore significance by adding Scott Cawthon and Elizabeth, other than to drum up some funny nostalgia. Her name is Elizabeth Hill and is just making us coffee. That's really all she's here for. Jane is her daughter, and we learned that her full name is Ashley Jillian Waters. We talk about why we are here for a bit before we get thrown into a flashback of when we were just a child. Our mother would often bring us to spend weekends with a family friend of hers and his son, Harlan. Although not related by blood, we soon became like family. However, as much as she does cherish the happy moments she would spend with him, remembering Harlan would be very heartbreaking due to Harlan's sister being kidnapped, never returning, and only a few months later, his mother would pass away in a car crash. With the loss of two family members, Ashley and her mother did truly feel like a piece missing within their family, a point she addresses multiple times, with that being the final piece of dialogue. Night 3 begins with Ashley pointing out she's feeling really cold before we get a call from her mother.
But hey, lucky you have the whole location just for you all night. Kids must envy you. I mean, you know, maybe you can just leave your office for a while and, play in the arcade zone for a few minutes. You really are lucky to be the manager's daughter.
She tells us that there's no one going to bother us for this night, so we do have a choice to play on the arcade machine on Camp 7. We could just ignore it, or obviously we're gonna take time out of our busy day to play this minigame. Yes, I promise there's a reason for this. Like most FNAF related media, there's a very complicated and weird way of getting the true ending. There are a couple of secrets we're going to have to find in order to get it, with the very first one being found here. As fun as it is to catch falling carrots, I'll leave the secrets until the end, since it wouldn't make sense to talk about the true ending before getting the regular one. Now, out of all the animatronics within this game, the one introduced on this night is probably the most aggressive of them all. Lake, or Blue as I'm gonna call him, looks a lot like Hayden, but acts completely different. We hear our mother describing how one of the other employees, Michael, saw Lake moving, but as soon as he flashed his light at him, he just ran away. Also describing him as fast. He very much isn't like other animatronics designed to run at you, like for example Foxy from FNAF 1 or the Beaver from One Night at Flumpty's. These two have their quote-unquote homes where they'll always stay, which is where you'll need to keep an eye on them in order to make sure they never left, since if they don't, they'll start running at you extremely quickly. Lake is very similar in the regard where he wants to run straight at you, but the timer from where he actually starts is the room in front of the office. You'll always be able to hear the running footsteps outside your door, and you'll need to quickly put down the camera in order to flash a hallway right in front of you. Each time you hear this, it never gets less unnerving, especially if you're playing this like me in the middle of the night with your headphones on higher volume just so you can hear any important sound cues. It stresses you so much just hearing the quick footsteps. If you see Lake on any of the cameras, you can still point your flashlight at him to make him run to a room away from you. It's kinda cool seeing the small animation of Lake running on these really bad cameras, since it fits the time frame of when this took place. With the end of this night, we come back to Darren's home, but now we have officially started to look at the investigation. Apparently, many years ago, a lot more children were reported missing, but they would soon find them after just a few hours or days. It's important to note that he said most, not all, were found alive. However, even the ones that were found alive were, well, he never gave details, but could obviously assume it was nothing good. More recently, 2 years ago, A group of criminals were found that were responsible for kidnapping these children, but he never said what the actual reason was, possibly trying to connect the incidents together from the 3 missing children in that specific group. Ashley chimes in that she suspects it was most likely due to someone at Lake's Funland, since one of the family members saw one of the children interacting with someone or something in a room. As the two talk, it becomes extremely unlikely that these incidents were really that involved with each other, though he does give a weird line that he's been told predators often target that place, with the owner being involved with some shady stuff. Now, they both have 2 separate theories of what's going on. Darren truly believes that there's a group out there that's still involved with these missing children, probably taking them from the streets with a van of sorts, while Ashley believes it was most likely someone from within Lake's Funland's establishment that's involved with what happened. Though Darren does at least entertain the idea for a bit, since the owner probably wouldn't even care about 3 children to kidnap them while he could be sleeping on his bed of gold, but if for some reason he was into some sort of cultist activities, maybe something could be up. A bombshell is thrown as someone named Lorraine Wilson is revealed to have been murdered in the back alley of the Funland. With this revelation, we get sent to another flashback of this crying child running from this hooded figure who is leaving these red footprints. In this minigame, we play as Hayden as we had to follow them within a diner, only to find Night 4. Ashley has begun to feel a lot more pressured working here, and for good reason. Our mother calls and gives us some pretty important information involving Chick the bird. So, the bird has been seen in the ventilation system a couple of times according to her mom. Basically, she's the exact same as Red, as we will need to use the various sound lures in the vents to make her stay away from the office. Before, all the different mechanics together all felt like they complemented each other quite well, requiring to actually use the camera system while at the same time being mindful of your office. But now, you're going to have to switch from the vents quite frequently in order to press the sound lures. It's even more frustrating since the vents are absolutely pitch black. In the main cameras, you can at least sometimes see the silhouettes of the animatronics, so you can quickly find out who you're looking for by just cycling through. I'll talk about why this is so annoying in just a little bit. Continuing her call, she brings up a certain incident that happened 4 years ago in the back alley during a snowstorm, with that incident showing up in the newspapers, probably talking about Lorraine Wilson, who we just learned about. For whatever reason, this animatronic went outside, or possibly was dragged outside to be near her body. Things get weird as her mother starts to get more and more nervous as the phone call progresses, almost sounding hysterical at points.
By the way, that reminded me. I don't want to sound nosy. I mean it, and I'm really sorry if I do. You left some of your notebooks on the table a couple of days ago. I picked them up to put them in your drawer, but, I noticed your notes. You know, that investigation you're doing for school about the missing children and their possible connection to Lorraine's assassination. I mean, you're doing great. It's just that I don't think you'll get anywhere with it. Like, it's been about 4 years since that, and there's barely any information on the case. Whoever you ask will probably lead you to simple rumors. There's a bunch of them out there. I don't know, I'd suggest you find another case. There's plenty of interesting cases you can work on. What about the robberies at the Red Path Museum? That sounds interesting enough. I'm sure you'll get a high grade. Listen, I just think it may not be safe to do an investigation on such a serious case. At least if you're not a professional certified detective, but you do what you think is best. Alright, that's all I had to say. Take care and good night.
That was weird.
It's all very suspicious. Anyways, back to the gameplay side of things. I died quite a bit playing this night over and over again simply due to the abundance of new worries that came along with just the bird. The inclusion of just one new animatronic somehow turned a simple game into a nightmare, so let's actually talk about how this game spiked up its difficulty. If only the aggression was risen up, there wouldn't be much to care about. However, since both the Coyote and John Kun both are much more frequently enter the office, our panic meter will also rise up quite quickly, which will cause our mouse to shake a lot, meaning it's a lot harder to enter the vent cameras, which also does not let you know whether or not Alice's music is playing whenever you're checking them. Sure, the previous nights did have the feature where you knew each sound lure was limited, so you couldn't abuse this feature to stun lock red in the same spot. But like I said, the aggression for everyone was also turned up, so now you have to manage things a lot more strategically, conserving certain areas so you don't somehow run out of sound lures, especially not in the room right in front of your office. This is more true towards event lures as well, so not only are you panicking in-game, but outside of it. We still got 3 more nights, so no use crying about it now. We are once again back in Darren's home. We learned that it's been over 4 years since Ashley has last talked to Harlan. This is when the game starts to delve into some extremely dark territory, as our perspective changes from Ashley's to Harlan presumably 4 years ago. I tried everything, and nothing seems to work out. Maybe my happy place isn't anywhere in this world. Maybe. You cannot move left at all, no matter how many times you try to spam it. This is not a cutscene, as the game will not progress until you, the player, choose to go right, with the only thing awaiting us being darkness. But it's not over. Harlan wakes up someplace shaking, cold, and afraid. Regret slowly fills him up as he realizes his actions. It's not until another voice appears, saying, "Do not be afraid." Harlan asks who they are, and they respond saying they're an obscure being that feeds on the needs and desires of the unfortunate and malicious. It's here we learn that Harlan is actually the grandson of Oscar, the man from the very first 8-bit style cutscene. It appears this thing never had his part of his bargain fulfilled, but still offers him a deal. We already learned that whatever this thing is, it feeds on the darkest emotions a person has to trap them with an alluring deal that they cannot pass up. For Harlan, it's the fact he's lived such a lonely life. Of course, he did have Ashley and her mother come over on weekends, but can they truly replace his real mother and sister? All he had ever wanted was a family. A happy family. One big happy family. Claiming to have a few abandoned souls right now that are already a family, all Harlan needs to do is just accept to join them. Join them and he'll never have to feel loneliness ever again. Even though he has nothing to give, that doesn't matter. To this thing, Harlan is the prize. He will rebuild him, put him back together, give him a whole new life. He can be loved. He accepts. Darkness fills him up from all sides, as this thing whispers sweet promises into his mind that he will never have to feel pain ever again. Night 5. Usually, each time it starts off with Ashley saying some sort of comment, but here, she's completely silent. The phone call with her mother is weird, as it seems to just be apologetic and rushed compared to the others. When it comes to the gameplay, nothing has really changed other than the AI being much more aggressive, but that's really it. This night offers almost nothing new except for something I'll show later on. Beating it will lead to Ashley telling us her mom hasn't shown up to pick her up.
Alright, I'm fucking out of here. Huh? Mom hasn't arrived yet?
This night's cutscene shows Oscar once again, this time even more agitated than before, apparently giving this thing an animatronic body, possibly being a vessel for it to actually move around in. As he pleads for it, things become dark once again. His last deal did work, but only temporarily, since it did cause the police to get off his back, but not his competitors. This is probably the shading dealings that Darren was referring to, as these individuals he's somewhat done business with are now not only after his wealth, but the lives of him and his family. We learn that it's this thing's fault that his granddaughter and daughter-in-law are gone. His son being a mess and his grandson's life being thrown upside down. Even after everything this thing has done, he asks to save what's left of his family and his business, really screaming the business part, which could be showing where his true priorities lie. This is where this deal becomes worse. As this thing has been living as an animatronic in one of Oscar's establishments, it's been getting an idea for a project which would need the lives of 5 children. This thing knows the crime that Oscar has already committed, how his own greed has always been his biggest priority. Any talk about morality would just be hypocritical in his eyes. Once again, giving the ultimatum, give me what I want, or lose everything. Unfortunately, Oscar would agree. We find out why the bird would have gone outside to the alley that day. As we enter the sixth night, we find out that her mom has gone missing since last night, with the phone call for today being made by Mike Schmidt. Not even a joke.
I'm Mike Schmidt. The day shift guard? I saw you leave the place by yourself in the morning, and I've seen Rachel usually pick you up and take you back to your place and then come back here. But, I haven't seen her the entire day, and I'm assuming she didn't pick you up either. I'm really worried. I tried calling her and everything, but I got no answers. So, please give me a call if you know anything about her, okay? I wrote down my phone number on a piece of paper. Should be in one of the desk drawers.
Not even Michael has seen her all day, which causes Ashley to get even more worried about where she is. Now, the gameplay for the last 2 nights when all the animatronics are active are some of the most stressful but fun moments I've had for a while playing any FNAF fan game, simply due to the fact you really have no time to breathe. It might sound weird for me to say this, but you truly have no time to think about anything at all other than what your next strategy is to get through the night alive. The mixture of the sound blurs from both the vents and normal cameras make it so you have to constantly check each side consistently, as well as a cassette tape needing constant attention. The other 3 animatronics thankfully are all muscle memory and just reflexes, or at least that's the strategy that I found that worked for me, since I could just focus on keeping Red and the bird away from me the entire time, but if I hear someone running or entering the office, I just quickly shift what I'm doing to push them away. There were moments where immediately I felt were 2 intentions as Red, Blue, and the Coyote all showing up the same exact time in the hallway, needing to have really fast reflexes just to manage them all at the same time. Still, the panic meter and managing the pills were some of the biggest annoyances that I can't state enough. Even without them, this game would be difficult, but wow, did it feel unfair at moments just because of them. Did I fail to mention how the battery usage becomes insane now because of how you need to keep away both Blue and look into the dark vents? Yeah, that was also something that was fun to keep track of. Resource management was always something that was prevalent within FNAF, with the earliest example of this obviously being the original FNAF 1 Power. As much as I could cry about my mouse role-playing an earthquake every few jump scares, I did genuinely enjoy my experience playing, especially with how I actually felt like I accomplished something when beating these later nights. This is when things unfortunately get a little complicated. So, actually surviving this night will lead us to get this check for a whole $190. We're absolutely bawling, but there's one tiny hidden voice line right after this.
We need you so that we can leave.
We need you so we can leave. Now, we get to find all the secret minigames to unlock the true ending. This will be night specific, so keep that in mind. On night 3, you'll have to go to Camp 7 to the arcade room and click the blue screen in order to go back into the game again. I thought this was always random, so it took me a long time to figure out, but each time you'll have 3 lives to do these minigames. However, you're going to have to lose or play it out 2 times, so you're stuck on your last life in order to find the secrets. You can't find it before, and trust me, what I'm showing on screen is my 2-hour-long live stream that was done the day after beating the game up to night 6. So everything within this specific stream was just to find these secrets, which would have probably taken like 30 minutes if I just knew that, in all honesty. Talking about streams, I had some insane streamer RNG during my first attempt with Golden Alice, who was like Golden Freddy, randomly showing up. Can't wait for Matt to check. Hello? It didn't even glitch my game, it didn't cause my game to close, it just broke it. What happened? Was that supposed to happen? What?
Alright.
Was I just really unlucky? What happened? I thought I accidentally broke my game, so that was fun. Anyways, after forcing yourself to lose to get to your last life, you'll have to catch a funny looking carrot. What is that? Here, we play as someone glitching through walls with them having brown hair and dark eyes. Without seeing the other cutscenes in the future, this would have been confusing, but this is just Harlan grown up. As he is walking around, we meet up with this child and say, "You must not cry anymore, my child. You don't have to be alone anymore. Now take my hand and come along with me." A line very similar to what that thing said to him during a different cutscene. Now, the second minigame is found on night 4 on cam 9 in a janitor's room. You'll have to click this paper plate that looks like the coyote to play Graham's West Rage. Out of all the games, this one was the most annoying to get through simply because you can't lose on purpose, nor can you win. So at most, you'll have to sit here for a total of 6 whole minutes to get to your last life. Just make sure to aim perfectly once you see your true target. Oh, there she is! There really isn't much to these minigames at all. It's the same thing every single time of Harlan walking around, then finding the child. The final minigame required is on night 5 on cam 8. You need to click on this doll to open up this matching game. As cool as the actual FNAF fan game is, these other minigames did feel really fun to play through since they helped turn off my brain for a bit after going through the torture that was night 6. This is something I failed to mention until now, but after doing each of these minigames then being in the night, you'll unlock these collectibles that would have the names of the missing children being safe. There are more collectibles, but they'll be talked about later on. Remember how I finally said that I got to turn off my brain for a bit? Well, to progress, you're gonna have to beat night 6. Again! But there's a twist. The entire night is normal. Horrifically normal. Except for the bird. It doesn't just end, but instead, she'll appear in front of us near the end, standing completely still before pushing us into a cutscene. The voice of Lorraine says she doesn't want to do it anymore as the bird appears. She is just one of the few that's trapped here, along with the 3 missing children that we've been looking for. It's when she tells us the person who took their lives was none other than our own mother. Rachel, our mother's name, feels extreme regret for her actions and has been trying to find a way to set them all free since something has been imprisoning them here. Our mother was scared that they wouldn't want to listen, that they would be too angry about what she did, but these were just children. She wasn't the one who came up with the idea as she wanted to protect her only daughter from the man who forced her to do all of this. Lorraine wants to come back one more time so it could put them all to rest finally. Hopefully, this will be one of the last moments that we see each other as they are set free. We finally unlocked the finale. Out of everything we have learned so far, this is really the final challenge that we have to get through. To say that this was a difficult night would be a complete understatement. I only shed a few dozen tears, but that's alright since all of that pain, all that struggle, all those attempts, we did it. We finally finished this night and made it through.
Alright, boys. You're all going back home. Good riddance.
Ashley grabs a lighter and sets the whole entire place ablaze in order to finally set them free. As we make it back to talking to Lorraine, she isn't alone anymore. One by one, the children take their turns talking about how they forgive our mother for her sins, until there's only one more left. Harlan is left crying all alone. We could have had everything. We could have been safer, Ashley. We could have been a family again. Harlan seems to have been too stuck to the past, trying to grab onto it and keeping it there, but after everything, he wanted to include Ashley to be part of his so-called family. Again, gripping on the idea of no pain, no worries, a perfect life with a happy family. To him, it feels like everything was just lost again. Going back to a place of hopelessness. That's when Ashley reminds him that he's not alone. He still has his mother, his sister, his real family on the other side. Something inside him made him forget about them, being too attached to the idea of making a new family, but it's time for him to finally go to rest. Even still, he remembers all the horrible things he just did, even trying to end us, but still, we say we forgive him. He's still our best friend, and we're his best friend. Goodbye, Harlan. Goodbye, Ashley. This was a pretty heavy game that had a lot of highs and lows, a story that felt like it could be expanded upon heavily to go all sorts of directions. The gameplay, although very difficult, was very engaging and extremely fun to interact with. So, are we done? Nope. There's still one final minigame we have to go through. This happens after we beat the game and we follow the story of her mother, how she grew up, her life experiences, how she met Oscar's family, how she was forced to commit unspeakable things, and the regrets she holds. We hear time and time again how she regrets everything, but what if she just tells us? I'll be honest, I have absolutely no idea how to find these tapes, and there's no information whatsoever online about it. In fact, there was barely any information at all to even find the true ending. This game doesn't really have a wiki or anything reliable to find this kind of stuff on. Thankfully, there was a YouTube channel that goes by Tristan1886 who found all the tapes for us to listen to. Surprisingly, there's still a whole bunch of lore that can still be found and explored to push an even deeper story, but that's a video for another day. Yep, we're going to be doing a whole long Lore Bites video where I'm going to be covering the story of every single FNAF fan game I talked about to celebrate 50,000 subscribers since I am so close to it. If you don't know what Lore Bites is, it's a name that me and stream chatters were just making for a new series that we're creating just discussing the story aspects of these kinds of games. So currently, 14 whole series being put into one video sounds like it's going to be a very fun experience to make, so make sure you subscribe to see that coming up. Disclaimer though, that probably won't be released for quite a bit of time. I do highly recommend you check out this game for yourself in the meantime. The link to it will be in the description down below. If you like this video, like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. I know there's something about this game you could probably talk about, and honestly, I spent a long time talking about it since it was just that fun. In the meantime, I'm tired from talking for so long, so I'm going to go take a nap. Until next time, my friends.